So today's video, we're going to talk about the weird KDP tip that changed my life. So I know this sounds slightly exaggerated. I know that it sounds like I'm about to sell some secret weight loss pill to you, but that tip is to start with your book cover. So starting with your book cover can be game changing for your publishing pursuit. We're going to go into this. I'm going to use my own books as examples. We're going to do an example together of how this can change your publishing journey and success. So let's get straight into this, and we're going to talk about emphasis. So this is what matters the most, because when you forget all about the keywords for your books, which you should be doing when you're starting, forget about your keywords, forget about your advertising strategies, forget about the back-end keywords, forget about your categories, forget about all of this for the time being. Now, I'm not saying that they're not somewhat important, but we need to look at what has consistently worked for people that are successful in this domain, and the emphasis has to go onto your book cover. So I'm going to show you where this can lead you as we go through this video. And the reason for this is because we have to think about what Amazon is going to prioritize. So what matters at the end of all of this, after everything has been said and done, is that people need to click onto your book and get converted into customers. That is what Amazon cares about the most. That is what is going to give you organic visibility so that you don't have to keep spending tons and tons and tons on advertising campaigns. So when you start with your book cover, it becomes your focus, and you don't just end up creating your book cover as a kind of shitty afterthought that you put together in Canva. So as I said, we're going to go through some examples using my own books, and we're going to do an example together as we go through this video. And the thing is, you want to think of it this way, is that your cover, your book cover, is the very first, it's the entry point into a potential sale. So just to use an example on the right hand side here, I'm sorry if you are this person here, but what has happened here, this person is hung up on their advertising campaigns when they shouldn't be running ads just yet. They're hung up on this kind of food and snacks, bold and easy coloring book niche with all these keywords. They're also hung up on getting fake reviews. I don't even need to go into this account, into this book, to see that these reviews are completely fake, and the book is going to fail without any doubt whatsoever. And it looks more so like this should be some kind of cookbook. Okay, so this is why it's so important that we start our journey with the book cover, we shape the vibe, and then we go from there and worry about all the other things. But let's go and take a look at one of my books. We're going to use this as an example, how we can set the vision for our books. I'm also going to talk about the massive benefits of doing this as we go through this video, creating a series from your books, how it unlocks all this potential for your publishing business. So let's just head over to Amazon and take a look at one of the books that I've recently published. And this is more so relevant for coloring books than anything else, but it's still applicable for most type of books that you're publishing. So this is a bold and easy swear word coloring book. I've shown this off a few times on my channel. I published this on August the 3rd. It's doing quite well. It's somewhat still on the side of being somewhat uninspired, but I'm going to talk about this and what makes it stand out, what has made it work, how I've managed to increase the price to $9.99 and still managed to get organic sales for this book without there being any advertising campaigns running to it, because the ads weren't performing, but it's doing well enough organically to say that this book is probably a success. So this is the final book cover here, and the great thing about doing things this way is that it shapes the entire vibe for not just your book cover, but your listing and potential projects going forward, which I'll show you in just a second, doing an example together on this video. So being unique and creative makes a huge difference on Amazon. Most books in these hot niches, as we just saw from the last slide, they're exactly the same. They're so uninspired. Everyone does the exact same thing because we put so much emphasis on keywords, hot niches, etc., etc. But we never take the time to think what is going to get the customer to click on our book ahead of the competition, because you're being forced to focus on the niche, the keywords, the advertising strategies, when in my opinion this should be around 10 to 20% of your focus after you've discovered the vibe for your book, your unique selling point for your book. Okay, so let this be a chance when you start with your book cover. Let this be a chance to spark some creativity and set the vibe and tone for your book. So here is an example of setting the vibe, the vision for your book, starting with a cover idea. So in this case, we already had decided upon which niche. This was based off of the niche research. We saw that swear word coloring books were selling well, so we wanted to create our own bold and easy version of this book. So where that I started, believe it or not, I started in Canva with these really terrible looking graphics, but it's just to shape the vibe and the vision for the book. So what I was thinking to myself at the time of creating this was that everyone has the same kind of book covers. They look exactly the same inside of this niche. So what can I do that makes sense, that stands out? So in this case, I thought to myself, no one does this purple green kind of vibe. I want to have some unhappy, like an unhappy clown on it. I want to have horns on the text. And I'm thinking about this from the very first moment that I start this project. All of these things I'm thinking, and we get creative from our book cover. It is the inspiration for the rest of our book. So what I was doing from here, I then go ahead into ChatGPT, give it some of these ideas, and it came back with this version of the book cover. And then this was obviously passed over to a designer who went and created this book cover here, where I did have some creative input, more so just where the elements were being placed here. But this is how I shaped the vision for this book. It's kind of groovy, it's kind of different. I wanted to have all the swear words in it as well, obviously. And this is what has worked for me best over the years. Like my two best-selling books were done with this thought process in mind, where I created the book cover first and then everything else felt super inspired, and then I built the interior, the A+ content around this book cover. So to make this easier to understand, let's go ahead and we're going to do a live example using some of the popular niches that are floating around at the moment, so that you can create your unique selling points and increase your chances of making sales when you come to this. So let's go ahead and do this together now. We're going to use the Fuzzy Friends books, which every person has seen already. So think of it this way. We have found a popular niche, style or trend, whatever it is, we've found that. Now we're interested in entering into these niches. Okay, so we're going to use the Fuzzy Friends as example here, but like I said, this concept has been done, but there is a demand for this style of book, and this style of book is obviously these kind of cute creatures who are friends. There's simple images, etc, etc. So that's the first point that we're starting with. Now when it comes to getting creative from your book cover, I want to have all of this in mind as soon as I start creating the book cover. So before I have the interior pages made, whether you're outsourcing, doing these yourself, however you're creating the interior, you want to sort of have this vision planned out on your book cover before you start worrying about the rest of your project. So in this case, we're going to start building out the angle from our book using our book cover. Okay, so what I was thinking of here is that what makes sense for this niche, the cute friends niche, what is going to make sense where I can have some cute animals that they're all friends together. And then I thought to myself, you know, something at the zoo would be good, would be a good angle because it makes sense. So we start planning this out onto our book cover. And it is to be noted that this is just an example. I think maybe there's a film called At the Zoo, so I probably wouldn't do that. But just as an example, this is what I'm going for here. Okay, so I can picture this on the cover now. I can picture the vibe starting to come to life here. We're going to start thinking about everything that's going into this, the entire unique selling point of how this is all going to work together. So at this point, I'm starting to picture this now all through the book cover. So for example, we have, I can just see it, and you just think of it this way: what is going to look good on your book cover? So we have this kind of maybe giraffe peeking in from the side. We maybe have these kind of cute dancing monkeys as well. And these are just ideas. We're just putting them out there onto our book cover so that we can discover the vibe for our book. So when you get to this point, you can then start thinking about the interior vibe. Well, you know, we have some dancing monkeys. We have a giraffe. Maybe the giraffe is grumpy. Maybe the monkeys are dancing on the giraffe. All these ideas, they should start coming to you when you start forming your book cover first. Okay, so when you do this, when you start thinking about this from the cover point, that's when your book starts to become unique. Okay, so at this point, even when I'm creating this book cover for a new project, what I'm thinking is, how can I turn this now into a series? So for example, and I can see it already, and I picture this, I do this for any books that I put into a series. I think, how can I expand this into another book? So for example, here we have the monkey characters from this book here. Now I'm going to create a separate book, and I can see this vision of the book cover. I can see it already. Mischievous monkeys. That sounds fantastic. So like I say, at this point, I can see this vision for the next project based off of the first book cover that I had. So the next project would be Mischievous Monkeys, and again, there would be kind of these dancing funny monkeys in lots of different scenarios, but they're going to be the focal point of the book this time. So I'm gonna, in the next slide, I'm going to show you some examples of why this is important going forward, that you have a series for your books. But the point of this is that you can come up with all these ideas when you just start mapping things out from your very first book cover in your series. So the reason that I take the emphasis away from where people are usually focused, as in their keywords, their advertising strategies, the hot niches, and things like that, is because it's consistent with what has been proven to work across other successful sellers. So these are the things that I'm teaching inside of the Raydog KDP community. And again, the reason why people are seeing success is because they take the emphasis away from the things that don't matter as much, and they really focus on the things that do matter. So if you're interested in joining the Raydog KDP community, we have a Discord set up. We've got courses, we've got live calls every single week. You can check out the success stories that people are having already from using this membership. So this is the reason why we've set the Raydog community up the way that we have, because we want to put an emphasis on the things that are proven to actually help people build their publishing business. So inside the membership, you have all the course content that you could possibly imagine. We have weekly live group coaching calls. We have private seller access where you can get feedback on your publishing business, whether it's your book covers, your advertising. You can get feedback on pretty much everything that you're doing. And of course, we have limited giveaways that we do from time to time as well. And on top of all of this, all the live calls are recorded. And inside the membership, I showcase my entire publishing business, my brands, the coloring books, my best-selling coloring books. All of this is recorded inside of the live chats, so you can go back and watch this at any point. It's completely transparent, nothing is hidden, and all of that is linked in the description below if you want to check that out. But where does all of this lead? When we start with our book cover, when we think about our unique selling point, when we get creative, what actually happens? So first and foremost is you will have created a unique book with a personality. So you will stand out amongst the tons and tons of other books that look exactly the same. When you think about what you're creating, when you get creative, you are guaranteed to end up with a unique product that will increase your chances of getting that very important click and conversion to your book. So this also makes other pursuits like your A+ content much easier to create, because now that you have this vibe, you want to keep a congruent vibe across your book cover, your title, your description, and the A+ content as well. And as we demonstrated in the live example, is that you then have an idea, you have more ideas for the series of your books, which opens up more keywords for you to target as well. So we're not going to put too much emphasis on that right now, but for example, what we were doing was creating this kind of Zoo Friends coloring book, and then we thought to ourselves, actually we can create a project off the back of this, which would be the monkeys, the mischievous monkeys. Now that opens up more keywords that you can use, like monkeys, etc. And here's another super important factor here, is that you don't end up getting stuck on one book idea. The more creative you are from the very first book that you publish, you can end up with a ton of different ideas, which means you end up with a ton of different books. Now, it is super important that people understand the failure percentages of their books, which means you cannot get stuck working on one project. You have to have more than one book going for you. So all of this, it adds up to potentially increased conversions, and that is what is going to matter. I can promise you that is what is going to matter more than anything, is that you get your book to convert into a sale, because Amazon will start pushing you all over its platform for different search terms, and that will obviously snowball, increasing the amount of sales that you're getting to your book. Because like I've said, you are now giving the customer some actual choice. And if you saw from the first slide in this video, the book that I use as an example, you could put that in against 4,000 other similar books in that niche and it would never stand out. You would never click on that book. There's no reason to click it, and the reviews, the fake reviews that they had, they are not enough to entice people to click on. No matter what you hear about reviews, for low price coloring books, they're not going to make that much difference for the launch of your book. And another thing that we're going to be getting into probably at some point is actually branding properly, creating your website, building an email list and things like that. But when you do things this way, it actually makes this vision of branding your website much easier, because you have this idea in your mind from day number one, and the more that you build on it, the more inspiration you can get, and the easier this vision becomes when you're creating your brand and creating your website and things like that. So that's it for this video, just a quick one today. Hopefully it gives you some inspiration when it comes to creating your unique selling point and offering something different from what the very competitive market is already offering. I'll catch you in another video very soon.